morning, YouTube. This is Chuck, and it's Monday, December 1st, 2025, about 11 o'clock. Today, I'm going to take you on another windshield tour, and you'll never guess where. It's all by that sign there. This is it's called the Florence Kelvin Highway. It's a very old historic route that went from the supply hub at Florence here over to some of the old mining communities over along the San Pedro River. And now it's a kind of a backcountry byway. The first part of it's paved, but a lot of it's dirt. And so I'm going to take you along today on a windshield tour, and it's going to be a while, so pause it wherever you need to make a potty stop or make some popcorn or whatever you're going to do. But I've never driven this before, and I've been wanting to for many, many years. Now, the first few miles of it here are paved and goes through some homes and acreage and this type of thing. And it's just open, flat desert, but we'll get back into some mountains here in a little bit. So let's just swing this around so you don't have to look at my ugly mug, and we'll just enjoy the ride. Thanks for coming along. About the desert in this area is that haven't quite got invaded by the buffalo grass yet. So a lot of the areas closer to the metropolitan areas have been invaded by an invasive species called buffalo grass, and it crowds out all the native vegetation, and it's also extremely combustible. And so they'll have these desert fires that end up destroying everything. And that hasn't reached this far out yet. Now here's some homes. Might be kind of a nice place to live if you want to be out in the country, and if your neighbors aren't too noisy. They say part of this road's paved and a lot of it says well-maintained gravel, so I don't know what that means. That can mean a lot of different things, so we'll just have to see how bumpy it actually gets. Look off here to see if I can get up here a little bit and get you a better view. Look off here to the left. There's some sections of pretty rough mountains over there, and that's maybe out there east of Florence. And there's some extreme rock crawling Jeep trails and stuff out there. I'll show you that when we get up here a little further, where I think I can show it to you better. Right now there's some like that outfit over there. It'd be nice to have the elbow room around you and the flat country to park stuff. And where I live, I'm on a hill, and so as a result, I don't have a lot of places to park stuff, which is kind of good in a way because it limits the number of vehicles I can have. But it's kind of bad in a way because it limits the number of vehicles I can have. This is a wide open desert country here. There's anything left of Kelvin. That was an old mining settlement, and I don't think there's any buildings or anything left there now. It's just a town site. But there's a number of them over there, and we'll pass by a number of them, and we'll get over there to Ray and Hayden and Winkleman, and there actually used to be a town called Christmas there, and the mine gradually overtook Christmas, and there's nothing left of it. It's just a place name anymore. Arizona desert. This is kind of the country. Got a cell tower out here disguised as a big fake pine tree. I guess that looks better than a plain cell tower, but it does certainly out of place out here in the middle of the desert. They also had them disguised as big swirl cactus, and I think that would have been more appropriate for here. Stuff off here to the left, the cactuses are called cholla. It's pronounced, it's spelled cholla, but it's pronounced cholla. And that's the famous jumping cactus. They don't actually jump, but it doesn't take much to brush up against one and get it to stuck to you. And then they have the barbs on them are actually kind of like a fishhook thing, and once they get stuck in you, they don't come back out again. And, my neighbor over at the RV park just went hiking, I believe it was yesterday, and he actually bumped up against one with his shoe, and it flipped up and nailed him right on the calf of his leg. And he was wearing shorts, of course, and it got him pretty good. You always want to carry a little, like a Leatherman tool or something like that for that kind of stuff, because that's what it takes to get him out of you. Now we're getting into more of the, away from the houses and more over here into the wide open desert. And that's pristine desert there, folks. A lot of swirls. There's a crested swirl right there. Those are pretty rare. Somebody told me there's one out here, and there it is. You saw those mountains over there in the background. That's clear on the other side of the Gila River. The river actually starts over in central western New Mexico, up in the Gila Mountains north of Silver City, and runs all the way down kind of a back and forth, and drains a huge section of western New Mexico and a big area of Arizona, central Arizona. And a lot of the rivers end up dumping into the Gila River, and it actually ends up going through Metro Phoenix and then down and ends up joining the Colorado River down by Yuma. Major drainage for a big chunk of central Arizona. You know, the swirls out here are getting more plentiful. Look at this. Isn't that gorgeous? There's a regular forest of them out here. Fortunately, I was going to shoot this yesterday, but yesterday was Sunday and they were worried about being trafficked out here. But now that Thanksgiving weekend's over with and everybody's back to work, and we probably won't see a whole lot of vehicles out here. On the way out here, I passed a overlanding rig, and he was headed out this direction as well. And so I'm sure there's a ton of camping out here. I mean, this is probably either BLM or state land where we're at, and you can probably camp 14 days anywhere here. it till midday because I was trying to keep you out of the sun. It's not too bad. We're running kind of into it here in a couple places, but this road basically runs due east, and then it kind of turns and runs to the northeast. So that'll be away from the sun. It's about 30-some miles across here. And right now we're running along pretty good, but it's going to get a little slower as we go a little bit longer. Catching up to that overlanding rig again. I passed him on the way before I made the turn there, and then I went back to shoot that intro with the sign, and he got past me. So they're probably coming out here he probably lives in that thing, and they're probably coming out here to their campsite. They probably had to come into town for supplies. But it's a pretty good sized 4-wheel drive truck with a big cab over camper on it on a flatbed setup, and classic overlander. Okay, now they're slowing us down. I wonder what that's about. We should be hitting about the end of the pavement here somewhere. The desert's kind of green because they've had a bit of rain, and the little grass that comes up, little fuzz grass, is called 6-week grass, and it comes up after a period of heavy rain. It doesn't last very long, and the desert's sure pretty when it's green. Dropping down into some kind of drainage here. big wash. That overlander's turning off, so you get, at least to get a little bit of a look at it. Looks like it's built on a Chevrolet Kodiak. Kind of cool to have a truck like that. Probably gets all about 7 or 8 miles a gallon. That'd be one of the biggest problems with them, but it'd go just about anywhere you point it. And now we're turning more toward the north, kind of the northeast, away from the sun, so you'll be able to see it a little bit better, and I'll be able to show you those mountains a little bit better. Over there to the left. I don't know if I can see if I can get a spot where I can show you on camera, but it's called Apache Leap, and what happened is it's the cavalry cornered a bunch of Apaches up there, and let me think I can stop here and show it to you. Right over there on the horizon, way over there. And see it's RV's parked over there too. Top of that little hill, that'd be a nice viewpoint up there. But, anyway, the cavalry cornered a bunch of Apaches, women and children and stuff on top of that. And rather than surrender to the cavalry, they choose to jump off and commit suicide. And that's where the name came from. There's a bunch of little granite boulders over here. That's kind of an interesting grouping there. I'm not sure where they all came from, but you can see how rugged that country looks over there, and we're looking, that's due north over there. Let's get back over here and see where we're going. There's a big over there by Apache Leap, there's a place called Oak Flat, and there's a big copper mine going to go in over there. And the Native American tribes, they consider that area sacred, and they've been fighting that new mine for years and years and years. And when it goes in there, it's going to be an underground mine, but eventually it's going to hollow out the whole mountain to the point where they think the whole place is going to collapse. And so the boulders, that's what they call that thing. It must be a resort or a ranch or something. But you can get a good idea what that country over there looks like. Now we're coming down here to looks like a fairly new bridge. Like I said, I don't know this road. I've never been over it before, so doesn't even say what. Just a wash of some kind, I think. Whatever it was, they felt important enough to put a bridge across it. So we're going up here. Anyway, that mine is they say it'll handle or it'll supply 30% of the nation's copper needs for the next 30 years or so, something along that line. And it's going to be a huge operation, and they've like I say, the environmental groups and the tribes and everybody else have been fighting it, and it's finally made its way through the courts, and there's not a whole lot left standing in its way anymore. And I'd like to get over there and get a video about that area before they end up going in there and making a mine out of it. Because one thing about mining is, you know, once you get rid of this stuff, it'll never come back. Not in our lifetime, or our children, grandchildren, or great-grandchildren's lifetime. This desert, like this area here, this takes probably 1,000 years to get to the condition that it's in. So far, this road's been pretty good. I'm actually surprised. I expected it to be rougher and older and a whole lot bumpier, but not bad. muscle unit along, and she's not feeling real well, and she decided if the road was going to be bumpy at all, she didn't want to have anything to do with that, so she decided to stay home and chill out and let me go roam on my own. Some real estate signs out here. There's obviously some private land that's for sale for somebody. I wonder if this big old turnaround right here, that might be for the school buses. They might run school buses all the way out here. That might be the end of the school bus line hauling the kids back to Florence, but I can't imagine there's a whole lot of places off the road out here where people live that have kids, but like I say, I don't know the area, so I can't really comment on that. All these washes coming across here run pretty good whenever it rains hard. Doesn't rain hard out here very often, but we had that series of rainstorms here 2-3 weeks ago, and actually had some vehicles trying to cross flooded washes got washed away, and 2 people got killed. Bodies washed downstream and didn't find either one of them for a couple of days, and they were about 50 miles apart where the 2 incidents occurred. I often wonder about that, but then I look back on my own history as a Jeeper, and there have been some times I drove across some stuff I shouldn't have, and I guess I was a little luckier than some of them. One of the guys that died was actually a leader of a Jeep group and leading a trip, and so he decided to go across this flooded wash, show the other ones how to do it, and it was a little deeper than he thought it was, and took his Jeep downstream, and he ended up getting out of it and drowned him and washed his body downstream. Now we're hitting the end of the pavement. I didn't look at the odometer right when we made the turn, so I'm not sure how far down the road we are, but now the rest of this road is dirt. I guess the last few miles on the other end are paved, but okay, according to this, it was milepost 21, so we're 21 miles into this now. Right over there, I believe are the canals over near Globe, I think. they're up over 7,000 foot. Red Cloud Trail. And you can see right over there is an Apache Leap. You can see it better from this angle. And the area around Oak Flat. A grader on this recently. There's some fresh evidence of a grader. Communication towers over there on the hill. You can see them red and white there. Now this part of the desert looks different. This looks like it's burned off at some point. Stock tank right there for the cattle. Yeah, this area in here, obviously there's been a fire through here. Now we go clear back around to where we're facing the other direction. Actually going west again, back toward Florence. I can see some of the warehouses and stuff over there by the prison. I don't think it showed up on camera, but I can see it. I guess we go over by those towers. Yeah, maybe not. It's probably the road that goes to them. Curves, mountain grades, the next 7 miles. Now we'll be dropping down into the San Pedro River Valley, I believe. See there, back in that gray flat area over there on the other side over there, that's part of the mining activity. Something. That's probably the county. There's a dumping dirt there, and probably the grader's probably up above us here working. This is still Pinal County. what that dark line is right there. That's these power line towers right alongside of us here. The wires from the power line towers. Back in the old days, before all the highways had bridges and stuff, the locals all used to carry food and clothing and camping equipment and stuff in their cars all the time. And if they got to a place like that wash we just drove through where the water was up, they just find a place and set up camp, and they may have to stay there for a day or so until the water went down, but they knew better than to cross them. Nowadays, sometimes we're not as smart. Bump. Didn't think that one would be that bad. Now, okay, there's a front end loader with the operator sitting there. Yeah, this part's pretty spectacular, dropping down into this valley. Folks, those of you that wonder about Arizona, this is Arizona. Look at that. Scoped this out on Google Earth before I drove it, but of course that doesn't really give you it tells you what it looks like from a satellite in space, but it doesn't really give you a good idea on how hilly it is. And love back roads like this on a nice day. This one actually isn't too bad. Some of them are pretty bumpy and you got to go pretty slow, but this one's actually pretty nice. Something out the window here. Yeah, that little rusty colored hilltop over there. It's probably rusty because it's probably an iron deposit there, and this probably actually is rust. I'm not a geologist, so I don't know that for certain, but that's kind of what I've been told. Roads like this are that's my kind of road. work ahead. Okay, that's probably where that grader's at. Bar Diamond Ranch. You know, I think I told you something wrong here. I think that I was thinking this, we're coming down into the San Pedro River Valley, and I don't think that's what this is. I think we got another mountain range to go over. I was a good tour guide. I'd have known all about that before I turned the camera on, but I bet the water gets to ripping down through here after a big thunderstorm. Yeah, we're gonna go over another mountain range, I think. Remember to hold this camera a little higher. You don't need to be looking at my dashboard. There's that grader. I'll just pull over here and stop and let him go by. No, he's going to wait for me. Very cool. Thank you, my friend. Back into the sun again. Quite a bit of work on this road. Years ago when I was in work construction, I actually learned how to run a grader. I never got very good at it because I never, you got to run one for 20 years or so before you get good at it. But I could run one. You're right in here somewhere. Is this? Yeah, this is a trailhead pull off, and you heard me talk about the Arizona Trail before. Well, the Arizona Trail goes right through here. Let's swing in there and see if I can show you a picture of the sign. Yep, that's what it is. You notice that one? we'll just stop and get out here for a minute, and I'll get a better angle at that for you. Then you can stop and read that if you want. Right now it's too much into the sun. The Arizona Trail actually comes right up through our country. And there's that sign, that part of the sign right there. And the Arizona Trail, if you're not familiar with it, that starts at the Mexican border and goes all the way to the Utah state line. And we are, does it show where we are right now? We are, we're kind of right about there. Right in there somewhere is where we're at right now. Get one more look at that. You can stop and zoom in on that and read it if you want to. Here's another little sign that tells you about it. Stop and read that one if you want to. There's the trail itself. So now if we come over and step over top of this thing, it says please stay on trail. And folks, we are now actually walking on what is known as the Arizona Trail. It zigzags 800 miles or so. We'll walk down here just a little bit further and I'll show you there's a trail log here, and I think I showed you the trail log on one of the other videos when we were up under the rim. In fact, I know I did on that video where I talked about when we went looking for fall color leaves and stuff, and we had a section there. Well, this has a sign in book too. It's right there. And the idea being is when if you're hiking through and if you pass this thing, you write down your name and the date and time and all that kind of stuff when you came through here. And that way, if you don't show up somewhere, then they know where to start looking for you. Looks like there's a little box of some kind over there. I don't know what that is, and we're not going to mess with it. But now you know we actually done something a little different today. We actually took you walking on the Arizona Trail. You know, maybe about 100 feet of it, but you can see how tough the mountains are over here. And these kind of cactus right there are called prickly pear, and that one over there is called a buckhorn. Not to be confused with the cholla. The cholla is a little bit different. And, back to the parking lot. Whole hillside full of squirrels over there. Isn't that cool beans? I needed to get out of the truck and stretch my legs a little bit anyway. Let's see if I can get the seatbelt fastened. Actually, I'm going to have to change hands here. Take this from you and find my seatbelt. We've run this thing a little over 45 minutes. That's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. All right, now we're moving again. We'll go see what this sign says, and then we'll get back on the Gila River and Alamo Canyons. Well, that one's faded out pretty bad. You can't hardly read it. We'll just leave that one be. So, anyway, we're going this way, and we say we're at milepost 29. And we shouldn't be too far from the end of this. You know, when you see all this wide open country, you know, they say how the world's getting overpopulated. And it's nice to know there's wide open places like this left, and kind of makes you wonder. They say there's not enough room for everybody, but boy, there's a lot of room out here. When I'm driving a place like this, always helps me recharge my batteries. Closer, you can see where the mining activity scarred all those mountains on the other side over there. That's King Copper. They took the top off that mountain way over there in front of us. By golly, we hit the pavement. A little sprint down here to the bottom. Yeah, look at that. Ain't that something? Back into some houses. Folks, I think this is the San Pedro River. Yeah, there's not a whole lot going on down there. A little bit of water, not even really enough to show you. San Pedro River is kind of a interesting. In fact, let's another train track up here. The original stop sign is off the side road here. We've got a little ways to go yet before we get to the end of this road. Like I say, this channel is what they call WYSIWYG, and that stands for what you see is what you get. And so sometimes I have to backtrack because I'll end up telling you something that I thought was true and wasn't. And that little creek was actually running south and running the wrong direction here from where I thought it was going. Now looks like here's the end of the road. Yep, this should be Highway 77. I think we're going to go Winkleman. Actually, what I'm going to do, well, I got the tail end of that last segment all messed up. I got my geography confused and everything else, but right now we're sitting on the west side toward the end of the Florence Kelvin Highway, and here again you can see the big tail end piles and stuff from the mining activity up on the mountain up there. And this is that bridge I just drove over, and down below it you can see the old bridge, and they didn't tear that down, but they got it blocked off so you can use it as a walking bridge, but they left it in place. And it's a little one-lane bridge. This is actually the Gila River. I think I said it was the San Pedro before, and that's not correct. The San Pedro actually connects to the Gila, back up by Winkleman. And just had a senior moment there and said the wrong thing. But figured I'd get out of the truck here and give you a little look about what's going on in this little community here. Two little communities here called Kelvin and Riverside, and there's not much left either one. Just a little collection of houses and stuff. And so I think it's a good place to end this one. So let me tell you, as I always do, take care of each other and love each other and take care of yourself and get out and do a little bit of exploring and be grateful for what you got. I'm grateful for the day. I'm grateful that I'm still able to go do this kind of stuff and bring it to you and show it to you. And just a beautiful day here in Arizona and show you some rugged country. And got another video coming up that's going to show you a little bit of some of the old mining towns around here. And but I guess until I do that, let me give you one nice little pan here of the. This is a pretty major waterway in Arizona. It runs right through here. Until I talk to you again, let me just tell you, peace out.